There was Yid Moshe Mendel Feiner. He was served for many years in the Russian army, in the Red Army. He came to the United States of America. His first yechidus, he told the Rebbe that he had a skin condition. It was very, very painful. And he went to the best doctors in the military and in the United States. And they have no cure. The Rebbe didn't say anything. The Rebbe said at the end of yechidus, you come back to yechidus right before Shavuos.
3 days before Shavuos.
He came back for that yechidus. The Rebbe said that when the Yidden came to get the Torah at Har Sinai, all the Yidden were healed. You should go home and wash your hands well and get ready for Yom Tov. He went home, he washed his hands with soap, and he got ready for Yom Tov. After the time the Yom Tov was finished, the disease, the skin condition, this vanished. We're now standing in a special time, right after the days of Shavuos. Today is the day after the Yemei Tashlumin, and we're starting getting ready for Gimel Tammuz. There's 30 days Lifnei Chag, 2 weeks Lifnei Chag. It's a very special sicha I picked for tonight. Most sichos and lekuti sichos is a digest of something that Rebbe once spoke. I think this is one exception that I know, but there probably is a few exceptions. A person wrote a letter to the Rebbe, a simple question on an obscure mimer in the Rebbe Marash. Obscure. I was telling the story. There was once a chavra, he was saying a chabura in the yeshiva in Baltimore, and he said, a favor from a gemara, an obscure gemara in Zvochem. So the Rosh Yeshiva got very upset over there, Rav Ruderman. He said, the Gemara is nicht verworfen, du bist verworfen. The Gemara is not obscure, you're obscure. But anyway, a mimer that's even now, I couldn't find it on my shelf, and I looked in the computer, they still have it, from the written, from the Shmuel HaSofer. Someone asked a question, a simple klotz kash in a mimer. Like, doesn't make sense. The Rebbe writes back a very short answer. The Rebbe writes, and he said he asked a lot of mashpiyim and he asked a lot of rabbonim, and no one answered him. The Rebbe asked, how much moments you and all the people that you spoke to, how much moments combined did you spend thinking about this question? Question mark, question mark. Answer to the question, 3 words, you know how the Rebbe writes, short, I, here, there, 7, 8 lines. 7, 8 lines. This sikha is based on that letter. So it happens to be a very, very sweet sikha, and let's get straight to it. In this week's parsha, there's a loaded parsha, and one of the stories in the parsha is the Yidden complaining. They're complaining a lot. They were complaining. Vayishma Hashem vayicher apay v'tibur bam eish Hashem v'toichel b'ktzei machna v'yitzak amal Moshe v'yispal Moshe v'tishka eis v'yikra Hashem ha'makmut hav'ere kebara ba im eish Hashem. They complained. There was a fire. Complained to Moshe. He praised. Fire done.
Was it fire or was it megefa? It was a megefa,
I guess. V'asafsof asher b'kirbo is avot tava v'yeshuva v'yifko gam b'nei Yisrael v'yim mi'echelenu basar. So you have always the asafsuf that are among the Yidden, and the Yidden really have faith, but they get they talk until they convince the Yidden to go along with them, and the Yidden complain. Yeah.
The one that Moshe Rabbeinu make a gear.
Atazoi. Mi'echelenu basar. Zacharnas hadoga shnechel b'zayim chinam esakishuyim esavtichim esachos esapsalim esashumim. Remember all delicious things in Mitzrayim.
All of a sudden,
all of a sudden,
it's like in Golas, it's just you're thankful for whatever you have.
And we learned to sikha about the Mordeh Kadashi sikha on this 2 years ago. Va'ata nafshenu yevesha ein kol bilti lamam einenu va'amon kezera gadhu ve'ena kena bedoylach v'shotam v'lokta v'tochen v'rechem dochem v'duch b'shel b'por v'asas oges v'hoya tamei ketam lashad hashaman. So the Torah describes how the mon worked. Chazal say there were many levels. Some people used to have to work a little harder to prepare it. Some had it ready, but the taste was delicious either way. Beredes atal alamachin aloyle yeded amonolov vayishma Moshe es am boichel mishpachosav ishla pasach olay vayicher af Hashem oidem einay Moshe ra. The Eibishter is angry and Moshe is upset. Vayim Moshe el Hashem lo marois alavdecha Why did you pick me to put on my shoulders the heavy load of this nation? That am I a mother who had in my womb a pregnancy, all these people? Did I give birth to all these people? That these people are saying that you say to me, hold them in your chek, in your bosom, like the nurse holds the baby, and you're telling me that I should hold this nation. How can I do it? Bring them to the land that you promised. Where do I have meat to give to all these complainers? I cannot take the pressure for myself. It's too heavy for him. If this is what you're doing to me, Rashi says, At is Loshen Akeva. And he said, he was so weak, he felt like an Akeva. Take me away from this world. Kill me. He said to Moshe, you know what? Gather 70 men, that you know if they are from the elders and they are the shoiter. We know Rashi tells us already in this past week parsha that there were the people that the Egyptians had placed as taskmasters, the Jews, and when the Jews didn't do their jobs, they stood by and they didn't do anything. They got double whipped for that. So the Abisha said, now I'm rewarding them that they should become the leaders of the Jewish people. You should take them. Rashi says you should take them with words, convince them that this is a special thing. Bring them to the Almighty. They should stand with you. I will come down. I will talk to you at that place. I will bring and move some of the spirit that's on you. I will place upon them. And then they will have that special ruach, that special power of Moshe Rabbeinu. They will carry with you in the heavy load of the nation. You will not have to carry from now on your own. So now we had the Shivim Ish that got from the Ruach HaKodesh of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Seems like a different personality. I mean, at the time of when he was judging the people and they had problems, and he didn't say, you know, said, I can. He was
that he could handle.
He can handle.
Two friends that didn't the question, this, right? That he can handle. When they're screaming, when they yell, but that was a different thing. When the two people have a dispute, a shalom bayis, they're coming, Reuven and Shimon, a fender bender, no problem from morning till night. But now that the whole people are complaining, and it's illegitimate complaints. So he says, I can't do it. So the Abisha said, you know what? Let's take 70 people. I don't want to focus today on the complaints and the complaining. Today, just on this incredible. By the way, in Chassidus, there's always talk about Atzilus, the world of Atzilus. How many times in the Torah, in the Bible, Torah Shabbat, do you have the word?
Rare.
It's very rare. This is one of the only places you find in the Torah the word Atzilus. Another time, huh? There is several times in the Torah. This is one of the places. There's a Sifrei, there's a Rashi, a Medrash Rabbah, and another Medrash Rabbah. Let's try to do it quickly. Moshe was compared to what was he compared at that moment? A candle that's setting on the menorah. And many candles were lit from that menorah. The light was not diminished. The wisdom of Moshe did not lack at that moment. Even though from Moshe went from his ruach to 70 men, you might think that Moshe was lacking. He lost. Their gain was his loss? No, it was like a candle. If you say you have a candle and another 100 people or 70 people will come and they will take their candles and bring it close to this candle to get fire, this fire is not diminished because of that. Moshe wasn't diminished. Rashi brings us a slightly different words. Lamo Moshe dome by Sashol, and there's Shemona Chagab Menora, Vahakol Madlikim Memena, Ve'en Orechoseklum. Medrash Rabbah says the same thing but a little differently. V'im Toimar, if you might say, Zakeinim Shoyis and Avasa Mishal Moshe. The Zakeinim that their nevuah was from Moshe, Shema Choser Moshe and Avasa Klum. Maybe you will say, they got nevuah, so he lost his nevuah. Or a little bit. Love. Not true. Lamoha dover doimet. What does this compare? L'nersha dolok. To a candle that was lit. V'glikum and a kamanetis. They lit several candles. V'ord lekosi lechiser. Nothing was lost from this candle. Afka Moshe mishaloi lechiser klum. Moshe did not lose anything.
It's interesting that
nothing.
That when you light another candle, the concept of lighting another candle does not take away from anything from the first candle that it actually lit.
It's an incredible mashal.
Yeah.
Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, "V'leikom novi oid b'Yisrael k'Moshe." So this pasuk is a raya that Moshe was not diminished. Was not diminished.
How's that
This,
raya?
huh?
How's that last pasuk a raya?
What's your kasha?
How's that last pasuk like come?
Because you see, he wasn't diminished. He stayed the biggest navi.
Maybe he gave over and he was still the biggest navi.
Good question. A very good question.
Isn't it like sometimes you can light from a small candle, you can light a bigger flame. So if you could say that at one point that a Talmud could be stronger than a student bigger than his teacher.
So for that the pasuk said. "V'leikom novi oid b'Yisrael k'Moshe."
Just to prove that was
That they never got bigger.
You could get bigger. Like you can find a Talmud that got closer to the like. Who was this? Meir Balanes was Acher. Who's
Right,
the Talmud
right.
about,
He was
right?
right. So he was bigger than his Rebbe.
He was bigger than his Rebbe, obviously, but I'm saying is, so it means that to light a candle, small candle, can still
So
light
that's why the
a bigger
pasuk
candle.
says, "V'leikom novi oid b'Yisrael," that they never got bigger.
It still bothers me that Moshe Rabbeinu can handle things.
Huh?
It still bothers me that Moshe Rabbeinu can't handle it.
Can handle what?
How could he not
Problems are
handle?
coming up.
You should have consulted you.
Oh,
One more medrash before we tackle this whole thing. Medrash Rabbah. Another medrash. It's in the same Perek, but that was in Perek Tezvav Yutesas, Perek Tezvav Chafei. It says, "V'yiradati v'dibarti lo idiacha sheyoy mina eskeim ha'choviv levnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu k'yom matan Torah." The day that they appointed the Skenim was as precious to the Eibishter like the day that they gave the Torah. In this year's calendar, it works out beautiful. Yesterday was the last day of the Yemei HaTashlum from Matan Torah, and today we start parshas Behaaloscha. But we say that this parsha, that this thing that was as precious as the Yom of Matan Torah itself. Shekosav v'kibiyam hashlishi yered Hashem le'enik ha'olam al v'vin eskenim ksiv yerida, that the Eibishter was yered, just like Matan Torah. So it was a very special thing that the Torah later tells a story of Elda the Meida. The Eibishter was like very happy, and Moshe Rabbeinu was very happy. Elda the Meida was saying Nevuah, and there was a whole brouhaha. How they were saying something about Moshe, that Moshe is going to pass away, he's not going to Eretz Yisrael, and Yeshua said, "Don't you Moshe climb? They got to go to jail. They're saying such terrible things." Moshe, take it easy. I would love to see that every Jew becomes a prophet. And we'll see at the end of this medrash, it said that Takazoi, that L'olam Haba, every single Jew will be a prophet. So this day, that all of a sudden, not only Moshe Rabbeinu is a prophet, but 70 Jews are a prophet, and then all of a sudden, Elda Demei pop up another 2 prophets, is such a huge day, it's as big as the day of Matan Torah itself. To what is this compared to Moshe? The Melech had a pardes, a beautiful orchard. But he needs to have a guard. So he hires a guard. He gave him a large chunk of money for a reward. After a while, I can't. I can't do it. I need other guards to work with me. No problem. No problem. You say you need more guards? More guards. How many guards do you want? Now I'm going to bring them. V'hevi yodea, she'en ani noisen lam schar shmida meshali, ela metuch schar shenasati lecho. Shenasati lecho, shkach. Bruchim tiyu. Shenasati lecho, misham, heim noitlin schar. They're going to take their schar from your schar. Kochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, כשאמרת, לא יאכל לא נאכל לבד, לא ססום לקדוש ברוך הוא. אני נסעתי לך ברוח ודס לפרנס בנו ולא יסם מבקש אחר, כדי שתסייחם תבויס הגדולה. And I didn't look for anyone else. I said, you're going to be the shomer. ואתה מבקש אחר, תדע ושמשלי אין לכם כלום. I'm not giving extra schar to them. אלו, והצלתי מן הרוח אשר עליך. I'm going to take from the ruach that's on top of you. Rafa became Moshe lechos haklum. Nevertheless, Moshe didn't, at the end, didn't lose anything. At the end of 40 years, Amar Lo Eibusha said, Kach lo es lechos Yeshua benum, take Yeshua v'nasatam ha'od chalav, take, give from your hod. And Ksiv Maksiv Yeshua benum molech ruach ha'chochma, kesamach Moshe ziyad alav. So we see that even though Moshe lost, but eventually,
he gave it over to...
He had everything again. Rama Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ba'olam hazeh nisna b'yechidim alo asalav kol Yisrael nasa nevim. Shenemar v'haya achri kein eshpach esruchi al kol basar v'nibu b'neichem u'v'neisechem kach doresh levi tenchuma.
There was time of the Nevi'im that there were like big groups of Nevi'im.
Big groups, right? Yeah. There was such a thing.
And then they were killed by
right.
I forgot what was.
Zevel and Achav.
There were a few times that so that those groups are called from 70 skinny the same, or they were
separate. They're separate. Not the 70. But I guess this was a chidush dover that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to be that will be only one navi, or maybe one navi per generation. And now David said, I'm going to make that from the ruach of the Moshe Rabbeinu will also be on other people in the generation. And that's a big simcha, even though it seems like it started from the complaining, but really it turns out that this is, to the Eibishter, this is a very big thing, because this is the plan, the Mashiach will come, every Jew will be a Navi. And Banazmeh, we have a lot of people that could get from the Ruach of Moshe Rabbeinu.
So you're saying even today that we can find tzaddikim, you call it rabbis, and people that feel that very close, and they feel that the brachas of
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Of Moshe Rabbeinu, they have some truth to it.
Right.
That they have some kind of a power.
From the Ruach of Moshe
besides the
Rabbeinu.
Lamed Tzaddikim that we know that they have every generation that Hashem plans. Besides that, you're saying that there's more
that get from the Ruach of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Nevi'im like these two, maybe we don't need so badly. It's amazing that it turned out so odd that they make a big thing out of it. It's a fact that they had Nevuah. These people were good. But
so, a few questions here. First question is, just if you didn't have any questions, you see right away that there's a few medrashim. They're not exactly the same. The medrash, the Sifrei Rashi Medrash Rabbah are all saying that Moshe Rabbeinu was not diminished. The other medrash says Moshe Rabbeinu was diminished. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, can we put parshiyos with this?
Huh?
Parshiyos, it talks about Yeshua then the skenim.
Yeah. There's different skenim. There's a different skenim.
Okay.
There's a different skenim.
Some say he was diminished.
The Medrash Rabbah's mashma that he was diminished. Eventually, after 40 years, it got back. And within the first opinion, so you have the Sifrei and Rashi, which give a mashal. When you give a mashal, you're trying to explain something. So the candle is a beautiful mashal. There's one day we should learn. There's a collection of tshuvas that Rebbe once wrote. There was a thing called Kovetz Lubavitch. Anyone could write a question. The editors are going to answer the question. Any questions, halacha, hashkafa, editors. It was the Rebbe was then the son-in-law of the Friedrich Rebbe, and he was answering the questions. And eventually there was many people wrote questions every month. It was a monthly thing, and they put together all the tshuvas. I think for 15 tshuvas. Some of them are like unbelievable, like questions like, "Oh, what's going to happen when Mashiach is going to come? A person was married 3 times. Who's going to come? Who's going to go? A person died. A person lived. 2 Gilgulim, 3 Gilgulim." The Rebbe has, yes, it's a beautiful thing. We should once make a project to learn that. A beautiful 15 tshuvas from the Rebbe. Unbelievable.
Only 15?
Maybe 12. It's a collection. Yeah.
What do you mean? People only he answered only 15.
Every month this went on for maybe a few years only.
1
years.
question.
Yeah, and they never wrote an essay to answer the question. He would pick a question that people would write into the editors, and he would write an essay to answer it, a long essay.
Like a sikha?
Yeah.
Oh, it was not supposed to be.
So in one of these things, it's all about chisa mesim, who's coming, who's going, gilgulim. So that the Rebbe, one thing the Rebbe says over there, that a neshama is not like a cheesecake.
Not like it.
It's not like a cheesecake, you know. If you don't you don't dice it up and eat it up, and then the person said, what's going to happen if one neshama came, 3 gilgulim? So when Mashiach comes and we'll have Tchiyas HaMesim, which body gets to keep the neshama? Reuven, Shimon, or Levi? Reuven lived in the time first base of Mekdash, Shimon in the second base of Mekdash, and Levi lived in the year 2016. So who gets to have the neshama? Reuven, Shimon, or Levi? So the Rebbe says, look, the neshamas are not cheesecake. You don't chop it up and eat up and then you're finished. Neshamas is like a candle. If you like the Sifrei and the Medrash says, if there's a candle that's lit and you take another candle and you light the candle, the first is not diminished.
It's the same neshama.
So the Rebbe explains that the neshama, even every part of the neshama has everything in it. Chesed has chesed shebechesed and gvura shebechesed, and that chesed also has chesed shebechesed and gvura shebechesed, and every gilgul, whatever part of the neshama the person utilized, that part of the neshama is going to come back to the body. So it could be a neshama came only in 1 gilgul, and therefore that neshama will come back to that one body. It could be a neshama that had 10 gilgulim, and the first gilgul matak in the chesed, and the second one the gvura, and the third is the tiferes.
So they're gonna have 3.
But it's not like, and when Mashiach is going to come, he's going to be one real solid guy, and then you're going to have 10 weak guys, just about hobbling along, because each one has 10% of the neshama. It doesn't work that way. If the neshama is like a candle, this is not to say, because I did very little in my lifetime, so I was mataking this little bit, so just about, hopefully I'd manage to breathe when Mashiach is going to come. Because my neshama is going to be a tiny neshama. Tiny neshama, big neshama, the zal bazach. When it comes for the body to live, every neshama has everything in it. But so Lo Yachosa, the Rebbe brings this mashal that's brought here in the Bereishis Rabbah. It's a very nice mashal, but there's a lot of details. Why do we need to, after we have the candle, we say, the candle is on top of a menorah, and a lot of other candles are coming. And Rashi adds, "V'hakol madlikim imenu," and everyone's coming. What's the difference if the candle is on the menorah, is not on the menorah, is on the table, is in the kitchen, is in the dining room, in the living room? A lot of people, a few people. It sounds really, it's parshas losos, but it's a mashal. The word is that there's a neir, like the Medrash Rabbah says. The Medrash Rabbah doesn't go in, just says, mashal ma, but here in the Sifrei and Rashi, add a thing about the menorah, a lot of people are coming and going. That's a shaila, and then the Medrash shaila is
the Malay also didn't have 1 candle.
It's several candles. Yeah. So what's the and then on Leidach in the Medrash shaila is the Shalom Taka asked the shaila. The Medrash says, I have a proof that Moshe wasn't diminished because it says, "V'lo kam navi I'd be so kam Moshe." No navi was ever as big as Moshe. Maybe Moshe was a heavyweight champion. He was 1,000 pounds.
He was.
He shed now 70 pounds. So he still has 930 pounds. No one comes close. Who? What? 200 pounds. How much do you weigh? Moshe is still 930 pounds. He's big. What's the raya? Because the pasuk says that Moshe always remained the biggest navi, so that's a proof that nothing was diminished. Maybe he was so big that even after he was diminished and nothing was lost. You understand the shaila is okay. So the Mefarshim will say that what does it mean, this whole mashal? So similar to what we said before from the Rebbe with the neshamas. Ibn Ezra says that a spiritual thing does not get diminished. If I understand that 2 + 2 is 4 and I explain it to you, I say, now maybe I lost it. Now you got it. You got the 2 + 2 is 4, but I lost it because I gave it to you. It's not the shiklem. Davar chokhmah, like that's what he's saying. If you teach someone something, you don't lose him in there. Better. If you explain it, now you understand it better. You remember it longer. So, a davar ruchni is not diminished. That's what the Ibn Ezra says. But the Rebbe says that's a very nice pshat. But if that's the pshat, so why does the Medrash think v'im toima? You might think that it was. So why would you take a thing? This explanation is so simple. And why would you think it was diminished? And the truth is that the opposite is true, because we find later when Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshas Pinchas gives over the leadership to Yeshua, it says, and this is the last Medrash Rabbah, if you look in your page, V'samachtas yodcha lov. It says in one pasuk, put your hands on him, and then in the next pasuk says, V'nasatcha mehoitcha lov. So the Medrash says, V'samachtas yodcha lov kemadlik ner miner. When you put your hands on him, it's like a candle to a candle, nothing is diminished. V'nasata mehoitcha lov kemarim mekli lekli. What happens when you pour water from one to the other? Whatever comes out of here goes there. But if it goes there, it's not here anymore. It's missing. It is nachsad. So we see, and why does the Medrash say that? Because the Torah says v'samachta, and then v'nasata mahoitcha. So that's repetitive. Why do we say two things? V'samachta and also v'nasata mahoitcha. So Zaraya sagt the Medrash that there were two things. First, he gave him like a spiritual thing, like a candle. He wasn't diminished, Moshe Rabbeinu. And then he gave him even more. He gave him from his hoid, and it was diminished. So we see Takazeh was diminished. And that's Taka the Pshat of the Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash Rabbah, the other Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he gave the 70 skenim, he was diminished. It was like the king that gave the orchard to a Shomer, and he said, here's your $1 million a year. He says, it's too much. Okay, get another 70 people. Their salary is coming out of your paycheck. No, so that means he's nechser. He is nechser. He is nechser. So we see that the Medrash, the other Medrash Rabbah, holds that he was nechser, Moshe Rabbeinu. And we see by Yeshua, he was nechser. So the question is, so why really does the Sifrei and Rashi, Medrash Rabbah hold the opinion that says he wasn't nechser? Why? What does it mean? Yen nechser. Nah, what's going on over here? So the Rebbe says like this. There's two ways.
What does she have to say by a head is nechsa or not? A head stay ahead.
L'chayre.
Yeah.
L'chayre is avaruchni. How could be a
My
nechsa?
hand right in something or my left in
L'chayre,
something.
how could it be nechsa? L'chayre tak. Ibn Ezra is right. L'chayre dvar chochma, it can be nechsa. It's like a candle.
Right.
But we see by Yeshua, it was nechsa. And we see that the other opinion of the Medrash says it was nechsa. So what's the machloikis and what's going on?
In other words, what's the difference between moitcho or
And the right over there.
what are you giving here and what are you giving here?
Right, that it's nechsa. So the Rebbe says like this: when you have a teacher, yeah. So it could be two ways of teaching. There was some time ago. There was a fellow. His father, I think, Rabbi Bernard. He was once chief rabbi in South Africa. I don't know where he lives now. He goes around the world as an inspirational speaker. So he was some forum, and Bill Gates was sponsoring it, and he was supposed to speak. And
It's supposed to be on Shabbos, and he pushed it for Sunday.
Shabbos, he said he can't come Shabbos. So they told Bill Gates that this guy. He said, pay him double. So they called him up. He said, you pay me double, you can pay me 10 times. It's Shabbos, I can't come on Shabbos. I made a huge kiddush Hashem that you couldn't buy this guy for money. There was a few years ago when the Kinnis HaShluchim was still in the Marriott, and they had him once give a talk about how to give shiurim. Huh?
His name is Keith.
I remember his first name. Yeah. So he said like this, and Amar de Kavort. He said sometimes you have to bring a thought into the world. If people you're trying to convey an idea, you have to bring it into people's world. So you have to find in their world your idea like the Mishalom of the Dubna Magid. You have to find the water carrier, you have to find the helicopter thing. You have to go into their world, but you have to also bring them back. See, he gave a mashal. He said, you want to explain something. So you tell it. You set up a scenario. Father and a son wanted to bond. They went out. They got a boat. They rented a boat. And they went out fishing. They had a terrific day. They were on the boat. They were fishing. they got some great fish. Now, his point was, if you're now going to go back to explain your nimshul, your balabatim are still in the boat fishing. You got to bring them back to what you're saying, because otherwise you're going to keep on going in your shir, and they're still out there in the ocean. They're still catching fish with the father and the son. You got to bring them back. Well, interesting thing he had to say. So, what's the pshat? The pshat is that you have two teachers, two relationship of teacher and student. You have sometimes a student and the teacher on the same level. It's just that the teacher has to explain himself. So there's something, it's in his world, he has to explain himself to the student. So he doesn't have to walk out of his world to go into the student's world. In the contrary, he brings the student into his world. But the student doesn't understand it, so he explains it well. But then you have a student that he can't understand it. He can't bring him into the Rebbe's world. The Rebbe has to go in, away from his world, has to walk away from his world, and walk into the student's world. He has to walk into a different world. A shliach goes out anywhere in the United States of America. He goes out in the world, and a Yid knows nothing about Judaism, and you start telling him about the beautiful sichos Behaaloscha v'asicha tovshin chavav. Hello, no one's home. You have to find out what this Yid is interested in. He's a baseball otazoi, so he likes it. So you have to find out about the game, who are the players, what can the lesson of Avodas Hashem you could teach him through the baseball game. So you have to understand how the game works, and then you have to talk to the Yid about the game, and then through the game you'll bring him back to the real game. But you have to understand you have to go out of your world into his world. Find out what's going on. The teacher comes to the students. The students are good students. He tells them 2 + 2, 2 divided by 2, add, subtract, very good. Then you have a class of kids that are climbing off the walls. They have termites in their pants on steroids. And now you have to teach them 2 + 2. It's a geitnish. So teacher is a chochem. He brings 4 frisbees. He puts 2 on one side of the table and 2 on the other side. 2 candies here, 2 candies. The kids understand. So when you have a dispute of candies, because you have to divide the candies, so if you have 2 candies here, 2 candies here, you want to put them together, how much is that? Kids pick up their hands, 4. And now if you take 1 off, how much is left? 3. Oh, kids start understanding. The numbers mean nothing. To add and to divide means nothing to a kid. But now you're telling him if you're gonna have after Hanukkah, after Purim, you're gonna have a lot of chocolate and candies, and you have to split it with your sister or your brother. You have to figure out how to add and how to subtract, and you show him with the candies on the table. Candies the kid understands. So you have to, so now you have to go out of your world into the Talmud's world. It's a different story. So Chassidus explains that it says that when David HaMelech was destined to be a bar nefli, to be a child with a lifeless, that was going to be a miscarriage, a bar nefli, he had no life. So Adam Rishon said, you know what, I'm going to give him 70 years of my life. He was supposed to supposed to live 1,000 years. He lived 930 years. He gave 70 years to David HaMelech. Apparently that was not good enough. Kabbalah, David HaMelech lived 70 years because of a donation that he got, years that he got from Adam Rishon, but that wasn't good enough. The Rebbe's father has a whole pilpul on the Zohar explaining why that 70 was. He needed another 70, and that was, they collected between Avram, Yaakov, Yosef, the others, each one gave a couple of years, and together they made a collection of 70 years, and that was given to David HaMelech. That's why David HaMelech lived 70 years. So, Frekte Chassidus, they were walking around with a little tin can. Avram Avinu threw in a couple of cupkis, a couple of years. Yitzchak said, whatever, forget about it. Go next one. Yaakov threw in a couple of cupkis. Yosef threw in a couple of cupkis. Isn't it like the menorah shalachisim oire klum? What do you think? They gave away from their life. What's the pshat? So, Chassidus explains that when the student is be'erich to the teacher, so the teacher could bring the student into his world. He has to explain, he has to put himself into it, but it's in his world. Let's not walk away from his world. But when the student's far away, he has to walk out of his world and go into the student's world. Adam Rishon is in Kesed, Avram Yitzchak Yaakov is Chesed Gvura Tiferes, or basically the higher Midas Natzilus. David HaMelech is Malchus, that Tzilus, that goes into Bri Yitzirasiyah, very far away. So that's what the Chazal are trying to say. When they have to lower themselves to give Chayas to David HaMelech, it has to be Nechser Me'oiroi. It has to be diminished from their light. Just like when we're talking now about Moshe, we understand what does it mean, the Hoid of Moshe Rabbeinu, what does it mean, the Ruach of Moshe Rabbeinu, and hence what does it mean that you subtract from that, from Moshe Rabbeinu, we say that the Tzalta v'Nosata. Do we understand what does it mean, Hoid and Ruach of Moshe Rabbeinu? It's not a cup, it was not seltzer. Well, what did Moshe Rabbeinu give? Wisdom? He's taught them a few words? No. He put his hands over them, over you. So what happened? What's the Hoid of Moshe? What's the Ruach of Moshe? Babela, we don't understand not what's the Hoid and what's the Ruach. We don't understand what's the Venasata, what's the Tzalta. Chazal give us a moshel from a candle, because a candle, we know what a candle is. We see a candle, but we don't know what it is. So when Adam Rishon, which is in such a level of Kesed, has to give to Malchus Datzilus, it's like the Rav that has to go away from his place, and it has to be Nechser Me'oiroi. He has to be diminished, because he has to go away from his place. That's the pshat when we say that Adam Rishon loses 70 years when he gives the 70 years. The Avos HaKadoshim lose 70 years when they give David HaMelech 70 years. The same thing when Moshe Rabbeinu gives Yeshua, because Moshe Rabbeinu is so great, so when he gives Yeshua, he has to be diminished by him. That's the mashal from a candle. The mashal of a candle, says the Rebbe, is b'diuk otzum. What happens with a candle? If a candle is here, you don't have to bring a candle all over the room to spread the light. The candle is here and the light spreads. But that's when there's a small room and a big candle. But if you have a huge room and the candle is here, but you're looking for something there, it's not going to help that the candle is here. You have to pick up the candle and take the candle there. When do we say that there's nothing diminished? When the candle is here. If it's a small room, so then you could see everything around with the candle. You don't have to take this bulb and start schlepping it there. It's right here. But if you only have one bulb here and you're looking for something there, it has to be nechser. You have to take it away from here and go there, because otherwise you're not going to find what you're looking there. So Moshe Rabbeinu, when he gave from his hoid to Yehoshua bin Nun, we say Pnei Moshe, Pnei Kechama, Pnei Yeshua, Pnei Lavana. It was nechser from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu has to go out from his place. He has to go away from his place. His place is so high. It's like Adam Rishon, when he has to go down to David HaMelech, has to be nechser me'oiroi. It's like the candle that's going from here all the way to the other side of the room, very far. You have to move the candle. The candle has to be diminished from here. Here there is no candle. And that's what happened when Moshe Rabbeinu gave over to Yeshua. Therefore, it says, he didn't lose everything. By it says, by Matan Torah, it says, Shemen Turak Shmecha. That there was no Torah left in heaven. The Malachim came screaming, hey, where's the Torah? There's nothing left in the heaven. So, but by Moshe Rabbeinu's Kama Kli, some of the water, some of the liquid, like a mushel, some of it went out, some of it was diminished, some of it was left. But something of Moshe Rabbeinu was diminished when he had to go out of himself and give to Yeshua. And that's why it's a big pella. It's a big pella. Chazal say, but you should know with the Shivim Skainim, but it was not Echsa Ma'oreh. So first of all, the Medrash disagrees. The Medrash says it was Echsa Ma'oreh. But over 40 years later, the Eibishter gave it back to him. But there is an opinion in the Sifrei and the Medrash Rabbah that say that Moshe Rabbeinu was not diminished. The question is why? There could be two reasons why. You could say one reason why, because of Moshe, before the 40 years started, he was in such a low level, he wasn't yet, Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't born, he was talking born as a tzaddik, but Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't a portrait, like the story, there was a chassid, the Alter Rebbe said, a chassid nit a pot yet. A chassid is not a portrait. It's a living thing. Every day a yid grows. What do you think? A tzaddik is a portrait on the wall? He doesn't change, he never tweaks or winks. A tzaddik moves. He's growing. So you could say Moshe Rabbeinu, in the beginning of the 40 years, he was in a lower level. So then, him and the Shivim Skenim were like the Rav and the Talmud that are closer to each other, that the Rav doesn't have to go out of his place to the world of the Talmud. He could bring the Talmud into his world. Or you could say the opposite. That Moshe Rabbeinu was so powerful. So when it talks about what he has to give to the Shivim Skenim, not to Yeshua, but what he has to give to Shivim Skenim, was in a way that even though he has to go to their world, he was not nechser, which is a huge chiddush. That's the machloikis, one second, that's the machloikis, as the Rebbe, between the Sifrei and the Medrash Rabbah. The Sifrei, look again in the Sifrei, says, L'mo Moshe doime ba'isa L'ner shemunach al gabi menoira. We know what's a menoira. The Alter Rebbe says in the beginning of this week's parshas, it's Malchus d'Atzilus. Menoira is Malchus d'Atzilus. Moshe at that time, in the beginning of the 40 years, was like, he was in a low spiritual place. What happened? Chazal say, the leaders of the Jewish people only have greatness because of the Jewish people. When the Jewish people are in a low level, they're misoinenim rabbe oznei Hashem. So Moshe reid migdoloscha. The Eibusha says, when the Jews go down, you go down. So at that time, Moshe was Keneir Amunach al Gabi Menoira. Menoira the Malchus d'Atzilus. Moshe is usually the Chachma d'Atzilus. But now he was low. Because the Yidden were in a low place, Moshe Rabbeinu was Leichereid. You also have to go down. So Moshe was Ba'isa Shah, Keneir Shemunach al Gabi Menoira. Rashi adds, V'hakol madlikim mimenu. The Malchus d'Atzilus, everyone gets chayes from Malchus d'Atzilus. All the Olamas get chayes from Malchus d'Atzilus. It's a contracted light that's not so powerful. Everyone could get light from Malchus d'Atzilus. Chochma d'Atzilus they can't, but Malchus they could. Because it's very much contracted. So because Moshe Rabbeinu at that moment was like, and there's Shemonach Gabe Menoira, so him and the Skenim were not so far apart. So he didn't have to go out of his world to give as his spirit, to give from his Hoyd and Ruach to the Skenim. Therefore was not Nechser. That's the Pashta Pshat of Rashi and the Sifrei, which is Halocha and Pshat. But the Medrash is Agadata, the secret of the Torah. The Medrash is the opposite. Because Moshe Rabbeinu is such a big Navi, that there was never another Navi like Moshe, because of the godless of Moshe Rabbeinu, we could say that he could give to the 70, he could do both. He could be like the Rav that's going into the world of the Talmud, and still he's not diminished at all. So that's what's going on. So to summarize, we have the default position is when you go far out, when a Rav has to go to a Talmud that's far away, he can't just go and explain himself and bring the Talmud into his world. He has to walk out of his world. He has to be nechser. He has to be diminished. And he has to lose and go into the world of the Talmud. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu was diminished when he gave to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Yeshua. And that's why the Medrash Rabbah says he was like the guard that said, I need other guards. And they be, okay, you need other guards. They're taken from your salary. Moshe Rabbeinu was nechser. But then there is an opinion that says that Moshe Rabbeinu with the Shivim Skenim was not nechser. But then there's a Rashi and the Sifrei and the Medrash, the opposite reasons. Rashi says, because Moshe at that time was like a Ner al Gabi Menoira, so him and the Skenim were not so far apart. He doesn't have to go out of himself. The Medrash says no, because Loi Kam Navi Oid Bisro Kam Moshe, because Moshe was so big that he could go into the world of the Talmud and still not be nechser. That's the Gewalt. That's the Gewalt of Moshe Rabbeinu. There was someone that sent me recently, maybe sent it out to all Menachem Mendel, that they once that the United States Postal Service confirmed that the Lubavitcher Rebbe got more mail than anyone else in the United States of America besides the President of the United States of America. Difference is, if the President of the United States of America has a big apparatus, he doesn't read the letter. When me and you write a letter to the President, he's not reading the letter. The Lubavitcher Rebbe read every letter. Not only that, there's a story that they asked the Rebbe, they went to a machine, that the Rebbe should open the letters. The Rebbe said, people, sealed with a kiss. Sometimes the letter is sealed with a tear. And the Rebbe said, I want to feel it. I could feel it in my fingers, and I want to open up every single letter. So if you think about it, think about this for a moment. The Rebbe wanted to write. The Rebbe wanted to write many svarim. How do we know that? Because the Rebbe, before the Rebbe took ill, the Rebbe's office always piled svarim all over to the skies. If you know from the pictures, if you remember, if you went to get lekach from the Rebbe's room, the Rebbe's svarim were piled to the sky always. The Rebbe, right before Chav Zayin Adar, the Rebbe went to his office, he cleaned out every single sefer, put everything back in the shelves, sent things back to the library, cleaned up the entire place. And he left in the drawers, he left a few notebooks. These are notebooks that the Rebbe wrote for himself.
He didn't left the Sefer HaShluchim.
And Sefer Shluchim was on top of the desk. Here in the drawer, he left the notebooks that he wrote to himself. One notebook was a sefer that he wanted to write on Tanya. So again, it's all bekitza, ayin, look here, look. You can't know what the Rebbe had.
Ayin is ayin?
Ayin, Aleph, Yud, Nun. Look here, look there, look, and all these places, but you don't know what the Rebbe wants you to look. You could look, but what are you going to see? The same thing, for example, in Seder B'Chazanan that we're learning. I asked them why they're not reprinting it. They said there's no chidushim. The Rebbe just says is like a digest of all the kashas that there is that in the Badei Shulchan on the Alter Rebbe, and the Rebbe just writes all the questions in shorthand. So obviously the Rebbe was planning later to write answers, but he never got to it. And then there's Rishimis that he wrote when he was in Paris and he was running from the Nazis, in Lisbon, he's on the boat, he's here, always writing, Rishimis writing, but never got around to publishing it. So the Rebbe didn't get a chance to publish this Svarim that he would like to write, but he did get a chance to write letters, to write millions of letters, bli guzma onasaf letters. There's people all over the world we have now 30 volumes of the Rebbe's Igris, but that's a fraction of how many letters. There's so many people that have letters. There's onasaf people that have letters from the Rebbe. The lesson in Avodas Hashem, the first lesson in Avodas Hashem is that sometimes we think that if we're going to spend time helping another Yid, we're going to be diminished. So you see, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't care about that. If Moshe Rabbeinu felt that it was necessary, so the Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu split his salary with the Shivim Skeinim. David said, okay, you need 70 men, but I'm not adding a nickel a dime to your salary. They, Shivim Skeinim, their salary is from your salary. Nechsar mi oiroi. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't complain. Didn't say, okay, no deal. Forget it. Just want to keep the salary for myself. He said, you know what, I better split the best salary, maybe the benefits I can keep for myself. No. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't complain. He didn't complain.
A lot of times in business, when you come to an end and you tell the guy you need to hire someone that can consistently hire more people and have under it, and you say, hey, it's going to cost me more money, it's going to come out of your paycheck. So no problem. The business is going to grow up. I'm going to take more piece of the business. Because of me, then you see,
Moshe Rabbeinu didn't care. He didn't care.
No, I'm saying he don't care about that.
The Rebbe didn't care. He wrote letters to little children, and the Vayli had a plan to write a sefer on Tanya and a sefer on this. The Rebbe didn't care. That's one lesson we can learn Avodas Hashem in connection to this Medrash and connection to Gimel Tammuz. Another thing, there is the Rabbi Rosenfeld that has the Chabad Shul in Bar Park. Right after the first year after Istalkus of the Rebbe Rayatz, he had a bris. It was Chav Taladir, and the Rebbe came in the Bar Park in that shul, in Chabad Shul.
Rabbi Simpson.
Yeah, Rabbi Simpson Shul, and the Rebbe after the bris spoke a short thing. The Rebbe said, we're having this week's parsha about Moshe Rabbeinu being the conduit that connects the Jews to the Eibishter. So. The Rebbe said that there's a story with a Meirel Premishlan. The Meirel used to, every day he went, he would climb up a mountain that was full of ice, and he would get there, he'd go up a mountain, down a mountain, whatever, he would climb a mountain
To go to the mikveh.
to get to a river, to go to the mikveh. And people always said, oh, miraculous, that you see, gewaldig, an alta yid, the gate, up, down. And he's the best skier.
In the winter.
Yeah, in the winter, versteht sich. That's when the ice is there. And so people said, big deal, we're talking about it. Man, we can do it, there's no big deal. So two big guys said, we'll show you, we could do the same thing. They went on the mountain, they kricht halfway, they fell, and they broke their bones. So they came, they said, ooh, they said to Meirov of Mishlan, they said, you see, we see you're a Isha Leki. He said, no, it's not true. Meirov is zigebinden oibem falten nicht inten. That because Meirov is tied up, with a harness, he's tied up to the sky, so therefore he doesn't fall. So the Rebbe said that when a Yid is connected to the tzaddik, the Moshe Rabbeinu Shebedoyer, so even when he goes in dangerous places, and places that are very slippery, spiritually very slippery, and a lot of people that are big and strong spiritually, big tzaddikim, but when they go to those places, they slip, they fall, and they break their hip. The big tzaddikim, Tamei Chachamim, when they're sitting in the yeshivas and the Beis Medrash, but they have to go to other Eggveld, in Goysville, USA, or in Goysville, around the globe, where it's all Goyim and Goyishkeit, and they're surrounded this for a long time with Goyim and Goyishkeit, not with the other Talmidei Chachamim and Gemaras. Oh, Rachmana litzlan, they slip and they fall and they break their hip. But a Yid that's connected to the Moshe Rabbeinu Shebedoyer, he can end up going anywhere in the world, but he's tied with a harness. He's tied through Moshe Rabbeinu. He's tied to heaven, so Mamela he's not going to slip and fall. So I think this is a second simple lesson that we can learn from here. The lesson that we could learn here is that Moshe Rabbeinu has the koyach. We said that Moshe Rabbeinu, we said this in the other opinion, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not nechser. So we say that Moshe Rabbeinu has the koyach to give from his ruach to Klal Yisrael. And more people are getting the ruach. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't care. He said, Mi yitam v'chol am Hashem neviah. The Rebbe instituted a thing of shluchim. The Rebbe said, every yid that wants could be my shliach. It never happened such a thing. That for Moshe Rabbeinu, there was never such a spiritual danger for Klal Yisrael. So there was never a tzaddik that got up and said, whoever wants could be my shliach.
But
To be a shliach of the Baal Shem Tov, it wasn't any. Me and you can't decide to be the shliach of the Baal Shem Tov. Shem Tov sent out the Chevraya Kadisha that were his shluchim. There were a lot of people that were the Baal Shem Tov was mekar of them, but to be a shliach of the Baal Shem Tov, and the Rebbe said every yid could be his shliach. So in Mela we have an incredible sichos that we could, and how do you become a shliach? The Rebbe said by being mekar of another yid. So in Mela we could do it. We just have to dedicate ourselves to the work that the Rebbe wants us to do. And we could be connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom through this harness, like Meirum Perem Mishlan. And the third lesson that I would say is that ultimately we see that according to the Agadah Shebetoira, we say really Moshe Loi Nechsam Oire Klum. The truth is that Moshe Rabbeinu, in retrospect, when you look back at the life of Moshe Rabbeinu, he wasn't diminished.
Oh, he didn't have. He couldn't.
He was not diminished. He was not diminished.
He was not diminished,
tells you the
but he couldn't.
He was not.
He couldn't have the same life he had before he started the whole thing. He couldn't have more children. He had to despair that. He had to change things in his life that he couldn't. It's like the Rebbe. He came to a point that he couldn't spend more time with his wife. He had to spend more time with the children. That was a given. The Rebbe said that.
Okay.
But his level never changed.
The level of the giving is he had to give more time
for everything.
So Mela, we have to learn a lesson. To summarize again, if you want to learn with the shitta that Moshe Rabbeinu was diminished, so we have to learn a lesson from that. That even if we have to go out and we have to go into someone else's world and see what interest another yid and go into their shoes, and if Chas v'Shalom we think we're going to be diminished, we shouldn't be scared to do it. On the other hand, we have to look at the other pshat, which is that Moshe Rabbeinu gives from his ruach to every yid, and every yid and the shayah for Shivim Ish to have the ruach of Moshe Rabbeinu, like Meirov Premishlan who said, "Man sein verbunden eben." The Eibush should help that this Gimel Tammuz, that all of us should be verbunden eben, and we should be not stam verbunden, but that we shouldn't stumble. but we should go even. We should go even take with Mashiach Tzidkenu to Yerushalayim Beis HaKodesh, V'vias Mashiach Tzidkenu.